Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
My life is fantastic.
Yeah,
and I know the greatest people, and I've played the greatest music, and everything's magnificent. And suddenly this earthquake happened. The earthquake hit. I was trapped in my apartment. The firemen took me out in my underwear in the middle of Los Angeles, and I didn't sleep for 4 days after. Right. And when the week was over, I didn't care about anything, nothing. Right. I didn't care if I showered. I could go to the bathroom in my pants and I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't care about anything. It's like they took me out of me.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I want to say a quick thank you to my guest on last week's episode, Director of Berklee Colleges of Music, Los Angeles office, Peter Gordon. If you didn't get to hear it, you can listen to all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit, or download our app and be sure to take us with you. Also, tune in next week for my conversation with singer, author, cantor, Patty Linsky. I'd like to take a moment to also thank the companies that help me sound my best, whether I'm performing live or in the studio recording and producing music. Blue Microphones, Taylor Guitars, Duesenberg Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Mesa Boogie Amps, D'Addario Strings and Planet Waves, Motu Digital Performer, IK Multimedia, Fishman Acoustic Amps, and Exotic Effects. So often, I get asked questions about the creative process. So I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and the brightest in the business, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is guitarist, composer, author, Jamie Glaser. Jamie Glaser is the guitarist with jazz fusion legend Jean Luc Ponty and Rock and Roll Hall of Famer John Anderson from the classic music group Yes. He has more than 80 compositions on network TV, from CBS and ABC Sports to Animal Planet, Discovery, ESPN, and History Channel, and is also the guitarist you've heard on shows like Seinfeld and Married with Children, and major motion pictures for Paramount, Sony, and Disney. Jamie is also an author, and his latest book, Hear the Silence, is about having the reader join him in the celebration of life after learning lessons at the bottom, being homeless, broken, and desperate from PTSD and depression after the 1994 Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles. Jamie has 4 solo albums, and the latest, entitled Catnap, is a melodic, progressive world album featuring his compositions along with musicians John Lewis and Scott Bredman. Jamie is also an internet and social media marketer, helping musicians and other kinds of businesses to get to the most success possible on the internet. Please welcome my guest today, Jamie Glaser. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Terry. How you doing?
I'm great. It's always a treat for me to talk with you, to see you, to play music with you, and continue our friendship. So
same here. I'm not sure you know this. I thought about this before we went on the air, that I was working for our friend, Ashley Irwin. The greatest conductors, composers, arrangers that I've ever met, actually. I love him dearly. And one day we were doing a B movie for somebody, And in his style, we worked about 2 hours or so. There was a load of music on the stand, and I sat there and I got all the stuff done. And then there was a bunch of more music, and it said acoustic guitar. And I went to grab my acoustic guitar, and Ashley said, "Oh, no, we that's okay," as I recall. And I said, "Well, there looks like there's 6 or 7 more pieces here." He said, "No, that's all right. We're fine." And my ego was pretty fragile. I thought maybe I messed up the session, right? And
Doubtful, but I understand.
He said, "Yeah, well," he said, no, it's okay. We have like the greatest guitar player coming in to do this." And I was like shriveling up, man. I was like, "What did I do?" He said, "You need to know this guy. His name is Terry Wollman." And I'd heard your name around town, but I'd never met you. Yeah. And from that day forward, I became like a stalker. I went to the club to see you. I went over. I didn't even say hello because I wanted to know. I guess I was jealous. I don't know what was going on, right? Because I had always been called if there's, mandolin part, acoustic part, whatever, right. Take care of it, right? So it was a couple of weeks later, I ended back up at Ashley's, and I said, "Listen, you got to do me a favor. You need to play me what this Terry Wollman did on the tracks that you didn't let me play on," which is exactly how I said it, right? and he played me what you played, Terry.
Yeah.
And I almost cried because it was some of the most gorgeous, magnificent, impressive finger picking and style, just like you are as a human, full of heart. And in fact, I from that moment, I learned from you. I wanted to know you. Being in the studio world, we read the music, we produce what they want, whatever. But you did something that I had not known before, and it was just. I hope that I was doing the same, but you gave it life, and you gave it expertise, and you gave it beauty, and here we are, some 30 years later, really. And I'm on your show, and I'm grateful to be.
Wow, I'm really deeply touched, Jamie. Thank you for saying that. I didn't know that story, and I'm so glad, because I had heard about you.
Oh boy!
And I knew your work as well, and on the flip side of that, I remember, asking Ashley, "Do you want me to bring my electric guitars?" No, we got it. It's covered. But he told me that you were playing, and I said, "Oh, that's fantastic. He's amazing. He's great." And it was before we knew each other. So I felt like I was in really great company, and I was so happy when we actually, met and we started and became instant friends because we, I know there was a little while where we were both playing on some of the same projects or albums, and you had been there first or I had been there first. And, so my love and respect for you is equals yours. You. But that's a great story. I had no idea.
It's true. And you never disappointed. I mean, from your solo records to everything, to even our little jam that I posted on social media today that we both
posted. I reposted that.
It's brilliant. I keep hoping that you and I will either do a record together or a project or maybe a live gig or something, because that kind of friendship, musical friendship, that's so, honest. I think the word would be, doesn't happen as often as I think people think it could.
Right. Well, my answer to that invitation is yes, yes, and yes. Okay. Let's make all those things happen. And I'm already thinking about some of the next songs that we can do our virtual duets with as well, because I know great. That's long overdue. So my studio's reset up in our new place, and I'm ready to do that. But I would love to play live with you, and making a record would be a thrill.
Oh yeah.
So we'll continue that conversation, and that excites and inspires me. Let's talk about you. Here we go. And I want to start by talking about your family. You grew up in Long Island, New York, and your mother, Esther, and your dad, Hy, were wonderful, loving parents. Mm-hmm. And your best friend is your brother, Randy, who's an amazing drummer and human being. And can you tell me about your family?
Yeah, I think that there are people out there that tend to feel sorry for me.
Why?
Well, because of that situation that a lot of people don't know about. My mother had a gallbladder situation, and they did an operation. And in those days, they didn't check the blood.
Right.
It was a major hospital, which New Yorkers certainly know. It's called Mount Sinai. For those on the West Coast, it's like a Cedars-Sinai. Very famous. I think most people may have heard of it. But there was no test or diagnosis on blood. They took donations from everybody. Like most hospitals, they needed blood. Unfortunately, she lost the lottery there. She had lost so much blood. She had a pretty crappy operation, and she lost more blood than normal. And the blood that they gave her was tainted. Right. Fortunately, I mean, these days, if that happened, you'd have people with all kinds of things, HIV, whatever, right? But in those days, she got a disease that was basically cirrhosis of the liver, which I think normally people might get that disease from being an alcoholic or even using certain drugs or, having bad luck. But the blood immediately attacked her liver. And so after her transfusion.
By the way, Jamie, you were 14 at the time?
Well, I was 14 when she passed away.
When she passed away.
Right. But she got this when I was 2 years old, I guess. And so for my entire life, pretty much, from 2 years old to when she passed away when I was 14, she was ill. She was a bit of a miracle in that in order to live, you have to be able to pass bile. You have to be able to go to the bathroom and pass the poisons out. And the liver was so infected that she couldn't. So they told my father to prepare for her death and that she would be dead in a few hours. And somehow a miracle happened and she survived. But she was often in the hospital. She was ill throughout the 12 years that I had her, the 14 years actually. But that's the part that people feel bad about. Right. The joy and the celebration and the miracle, the best part about this is that my life is guided by her incredible spirit. I'll tell you one quick story. She was so sick at times that things that would normally not happen to people would happen. She had 104 temperature, which is for some people death. Serious. Yes, it's very, very serious. You pack them in ice, whatever. She was so little over 104 that the thermometer that was inside of her burst.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, well, these days I'm sure they don't do that, but yeah.
Well, and they were glass back then.
They were glass, but that's the least. The point of my story is, it was about 2 hours after that. She was going to go to the hospital, but she refused. And she said to me and to my brother Randy, she said, "Life is wonderful. Your father's going to be home from work in about an hour. I need to prepare dinner, and we need to have dinner together." And that's just one of 100 stories like that. Right. Where, I mean, she would be sicker than sick, but Friday night was our night to go out for Italian food. Or you remember the old drive-ins? Yeah. Dairy Queen or the very, yeah. Yeah, we loved the movie drive-ins. And no matter what condition she was in, she was all about being grateful. Grateful for every minute, grateful for every single little thing. We may get into it later, but I had a little problem in the 90s, which is what my book stems from.
We will
and
be talking
her spirit, the memory of all of that, I think brought me through. I mean, it's not surely not the only thing. So, but my mother was.
Yeah, but that's where your gratitude comes from. I never knew the source for you.
Very much. I mean, she would do things that are unforgettable for me. I was extremely afraid of death because here I was living with a mother who was about to die at all times.
Yeah.
I was really afraid. I mean, I read a book that talked about John Lennon being so afraid of death and the dark that he would sleep with the lights on. Did you know about that, Terry?
I did not.
Yeah, I read that, and it comforted me because, in fact, my whole childhood, I couldn't go to sleep without the light on. Wow. I thought the darkness meant death, and it was. I would have dreams of all kinds of things. I'd have dreams of Adolf Hitler coming and taking my mother away. I mean, all this bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so my mom, just as a small example for you and the listeners. By the way, hello, listeners.
Hi, listeners.
She and I had grown you're familiar with what a mimosa tree looks like?
Them in Florida.
Okay. Well, in New York, they're plentiful. And she took me out during the day. I kind of like gardening. And she said, we're going to grow a tree together. And I thought this was wonderful. And we got a twig that was about a foot tall. And we went in the backyard. Now that I'm older, I wonder if she just was so smart that I didn't know, So we planted this twig, and we planted the mimosa. She said a little prayer over the tree for it to be happy, it's a little different for a plant, want you to be happy and enjoy your life. And I'm thinking, well, you're talking to a plant, Mom, But so one night, a few weeks later.
We've got about 30 seconds before we hit our first break, so we can continue. But I just want to give you a heads up. Okay,
how do we do this?
Just letting you know. Yeah, keep talking.
Okay. All right, so I'll talk about this. So we planted the tree, we did that, and then about 2 weeks later, something happened. So when we go to
that,
right. I'm getting
that
better.
Something happened. The cliffhanger. We will be back in just a few moments. I'm here with my good friend and composer, guitarist, author, Jamie Glaser. So stick around. And everybody out there on Facebook, thanks for watching us. And we'll see you in a minute. We'll be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talked with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Burtoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Peter Gordon from Berklee College of Music, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wallman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
And we're back. Welcome back with my friend and guest today, Jamie Glaser. Jamie left us hanging. You're talking about your mom Esther and the greatest cliffhanger of this whole series so far.
It's not as good as my Domino's pizza story, but I'll tell you that some other time.
Okay,
so we planted this mimosa tree. She gave it a prayer of as I was saying, of good fortune and good life. And I thought my mom had lost her mind. She's wishing a plant a good life and gratitude and all this stuff. Anyway, it was about 2 weeks later. I woke up with a nightmare. And the nightmare, I kind of intimated a second ago, it was about Adolf Hitler killing my mother. Actually, I know this because it was a recurring dream. Maybe because I grew up Jewish, and I had actually the reason why I'm even alive is the Nazis had let my great grandfather live. They buried him in Auschwitz in the mass grave, but because he was a cellist, he had connections, and at sometime before midnight, he crawled up through all the dead bodies, and the Nazis got him to safety. So I have a pretty heavy relationship with the Holocaust and all that, but because I would not be here, if not for the Nazis that day. So anyway, I had this horrible dream, and my mother heard me. I don't know if I was crying or whatever, but she said, "Jamie, we need to go in the back and see how our tree is doing." Well, Terry and listeners, it was 3:00 in the morning. It was dark. And, I had the light blaring in my bedroom because, as I said, I was afraid of the dark.
Right.
The dark meant death. And so she held my hand and she took me into the backyard. I was 12. And we located this tree that we had started. And she said, "Touch the tree." And I took my hand and I extended it to touch the twig. And she said, "Jamie, everything that's here during the day is here at night. They're just sleeping. They're resting. They're rejuvenating, and so they can have a wonderful day the next day when the sun comes out." And she began to sing. And she sang a song that is my favorite song, of course, in the world still to this day, called You'll Never Walk Alone from the Broadway show Carousel. Mm-hmm. And she sang it. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high. And she hugged me. I went to bed. I don't think I've ever slept so soundly in my life. But somehow, now at my age now, I wonder what she knew. She knew something. Mm-hmm. Because it seems to me that kind of love, that kind of compassion and nurturing is so off the hook that I can't even believe it myself talking on the radio with you, you know. Right. Mm-hmm. All the time that she was ill, the doctor bills were like off the charts. It got mm-hmm. so bad that Blue Shield, which is an insurance company, mm-hmm. Cut us off because we were over $1 million in her care. Wow. And my father, who was a well-known, well-respected songwriter, also had a day job. He was a salesman. So he didn't have any hit songs, though he had.
Although, let me interject for a moment. He did. Yeah. He had artists like Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Sarah Vaughan, and Joe Williams sing his songs. So he was a gifted songwriter. Yeah, he was amazing. He didn't, in those days, he didn't take the opportunities that were afforded to him. Sometimes we got a call late at night one day from mm-hmm. Capitol Records. They said, and his name is Hi, as you said, and they said, Hi, mm-hmm. we have 2 songs here. We have we're going to release Nat King Cole's single. It's the side is it's called My True Carry Love, and we have your song, which is called A Rag of Bone, A Hank of Air. It says, mm-hmm. if you send us a check for $10,000, we'll make your song the A side. Wow.
And this was the guy.
Straight up extortion.
Straight up payola, far as it can
or
go.
Opportunity or all of the
Correct.
above.
And I remember my father had chopped away, Sarah Vaughan's album is named after my father's song, and Sinatra's song actually got released after Sinatra died. That's a whole other story. We'd need an 8-hour show for this. Right. But my father, we're on the air, and you'll all have to forgive me out there, but I'm from New York, and I'm not going to say the whole thing. But my father's response to this person was, go F yourself. I was in the kitchen. What's that, Terry?
Understandably, he would say that.
Yeah, my father was very proud. There are things he did in that way that I don't know if I have the gumption to do. I mean, Sesame Street wanted to give us $500,000, and my father decided that because Sesame Street wanted to give us that money, that he could make double that money if he did it on his own. It was one of the biggest mistakes he's ever made. Yeah. And so when I look at my life, if Sesame Street offered me the $500,000, still retaining my copyright and all that, I would have gone for the deal. My father was a bit
likewise.
Yeah, would you? Yeah,
I would have in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat. Yeah, mm-hmm. We were very different in that way. He was stubborn in that mm-hmm. way and proud. But yes, he wrote for Sinatra, Nat King Cole, and all that stuff. But here we are on a with no hit record, with a salesman's salary, and mm-hmm. He had to find money for to take care of both my mother and his 2 kids, my brother Randy and me.
It's amazing, Jamie, because it's not uncommon. Actually, it's very common for artists like yourself and I and me and certainly your dad, an extremely talented songwriter, to not be as good at business as they are at art.
Positively.
Even though people like you and I have learned and had some great mentors and really handle our business, but it's not, it doesn't come naturally to musicians. I
don't think it comes naturally. I mean, there's all the talk that we think from the right hemisphere, that it's not important. Mm-hmm. Right. He was, I don't know if your listeners would know this, but songwriters used to get contracts from publishers
Mm-hmm.
One was called the AGAC. Do you recall those, Terry?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Explain what that is.
Well, AGAC was an organization that really protected the songwriter. This is not the same as ASCAP or BMI or any of that. There were songwriter contracts, and they had included in there all kinds of things that would protect the songwriter's rights. And the publishers had a choice. Either they could give you, or the songwriter would request, an AGAC contract, or they could have what was called a white contract. And the white contract was usually slanted towards the publisher. You know, this wasn't these days where we all have our own publishing companies and all that stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, my dad used to go to New York City once a week and try to sell his songs in Tin Pan Alley. Mm-hmm. And I went with him. It was a great experience, amazing experience. Mm-hmm. So my dad sat me down one day and said, Jamie, under no circumstances will you ever, or should you ever accept a white contract? Mm-hmm. I want you to always get an AGAC contract because they value your work. And now I tell you that because your show, this show, Making It, is an incredible vehicle for, and there's no, I don't know any other show like yours, Terry, where people that are in the industry can learn. I've listened to your show and learned quite a bit. And maybe you've learned as the host and your listeners, you know, even if they're not musicians, I know that I've got my whole Facebook crowd. A lot of them aren't musicians. They're music lovers. Learn in a way that's you know, that feeds their appetite, but it's not that important. But so I wanted to tell your listeners and the musicians and songwriters and composers and producers out there, do not ever undervalue your work as one of the keys to success. When somebody calls you and says, would you make me a song for free? I wouldn't do that. No, I don't work for free. If you know, I tell them, go to all the other composers in town. If you get what you want from the other composers, fantastic. But if you still want something special, then you know what? It's going to cost you blah, blah, blah. Right. You know your value. Well, it's not about arrogance. It's nothing. It's way more than that, because this is what I found. And, you know, one of my mentors is Jonathan Wolfe, the composer. Jonathan Wolfe. Composer for Seinfeld, as well as many, many other shows. Yes. A dear friend, very important in my career also. This is one of his concepts that he's now on a speaking tour. And I was amazed to watch on YouTube that he was talking about this very thing that I've been talking about also for years at seminars, in that if you undervalue your work, you don't charge somebody, you give them a break that's unusual, you know, they either, one, don't come back to you, which is seems the opposite of what would happen, right? We all like free, we like deals, we like discounts, but they don't come back to you. Right. You know, I actually have a situation when I joined Manhattan Transfer. Remember the people in Manhattan Transfer loved my time. With them, and you played with them for over a year, correct? I played off and on for 10 years with them. Right. Okay. But they called, and I said, "Look, I'm too busy. I mean, at the time I was doing 8 sitcoms. I was also doing 200 weddings a year as the band leader. I had a lot going on. I said, I'm too busy. Right. I'm sorry. And I recommended 2 people in L.A. that were willing to stop what they were doing and join Manhattan Transfer for way less money than I was requiring. And 3-4 days later, I got another call from Manhattan Transfer. Asking you back again. They asked me what it's going to take for me to join the band. Right. So I told them I can't. Right. I can't. It doesn't matter. You know. Well, I can't change to I can after the money got up a couple more thousand. But what happened was, and you know, and they said, oh, we have 5-star hotels, and you know, and I loved them, so It was a musical decision. But we had a discussion, and this is very important for your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
The two other guitar players that I recommended that they also knew, the only reason why they didn't take them was because they undervalued themselves.
Wow.
They said they would work for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
That
They wanted a little
the gig.
too much. A little too hungry.
And they looked hungry. So,
right.
We all have days where we could use more work. But, rather than broadcast that I could use 5 more sessions this week, I go out and I tell people, if I can be of help to you, give me a call.
Right.
I never solicit work.
A smart
never.
way.
Ever.
You're right.
I don't know.
You have a really unique background financially because your first professional gig was at 11 years old and you were making $100 a night playing dances for the American Legion on Long Island. Then you had a band of your own. You were at 13 years old. You joined the New York Musicians Union Local 802. And by the time you were 14, you were making over $25,000 a year playing music.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky.
You have I guess you were lucky. You were also very talented and had great training. But yeah, you were lucky in that this instilled a prosperity point of view for you. Like you've always been paid your value.
You named the years in there, and I wanted to tell you a story that connects to something we were talking about, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
While my mother was ill, as I was saying, I still to this day wonder how my father raised the money. He worked like a dog, but the kind of money that we needed, he found. I know that he became a professional gambler, and he went to Las Vegas, what's called junkets, where the casinos pay for you to gamble. Sure. And my father, in his true style, he went to a bunch of teachers to learn how to count cards and do this, and he made some money there. I like gambling myself too because of him. But the point of the story was this kind of prosperity plan was my dad said, listen, I want you to be able to work with the greatest musicians on earth. And if you want to do that, you're going to have to learn all of the music that came before the Beatles, all of the standards. He said, I will make a deal with you. And I said, what's that deal? He said, this is fake book number 1, which you remember that book?
I do.
It's okay. So for the listeners out there, this was a book that had all the music that people played at affairs,
We've got 30 seconds to our next break.
Okay. I'm going to have to think of a cliffhanger. So
I know you will.
I loved my book, and I'll tell you what I did with the book when we come back.
We're also going to be talking about the other book that you wrote about your experience from suffering PTSD and post-traumatic stress syndrome, and your upcoming Jean Luc Ponty tour. So stick around for more conversation with Jamie Glaser, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Everybody, this is Phil Perry. Stay tuned for another portion of Making It with Terry.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jonathan Butler, and you're listening to Making It.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
That. That's Jamie Glaser you're listening to and who we are speaking with today. Jamie left us with another cliffhanger, and I'm going to kick it right back to you.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for listening to us and being a fan of Terry's show, which you all should be. So we left off and was in a situation where we had very little money, or we had money, but I don't know where my father got it. I knew he gambled some. There were things that went on that were typical New York stuff, like he dropped the car in the Hudson River so we can get a new car.
With somebody in it? How New York are we talking?
That was, believe me, I think that 4 of my uncles did that. As soon as they were tired of the car, they drop him in the Hudson River and claim it's stolen, and then got a new car. But I remember we went to New York City one time and dropped the car off in the river.
It's a great memory.
It's a great memory. I wouldn't do that with my Mitsubishi Eclipse, but besides it, in Utah, there's no water to drop anything in. So I can't. I'd have to drive it all the way to L.A. to drop it off at the ocean.
Right. It's a lot more conspicuous on the salt flats.
Anyway, you're talking about the prosperity attitude and so forth. I have to actually give the credit to my dad, because here we are. We have cut off from the health insurance. We have very little money, or seemingly we have little money. And my father made a deal with me. As I was starting to say, he said, for me to play with great musicians, I'd have to learn the library of music. And I'm telling you this and your listeners, because for the very young or beginners, even if you're 90 out there, I believe that's one of the most important avenues to success. That if you only know the music you grew up with, you're in trouble.
Right.
This is just a personal belief. I do this with my students. I say, look, you need to know what came before you. As an inspiration, as an influence, and to be rounded. And I thank my father for this. So my father made this deal with me. He said, you're going to learn 150 songs, standards, music standards. Now, remember, I'm 11 or 12. I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And all I was interested in was listening to the Beatles and the Monkees, and I like
right here. Me too.
Yeah, rock and roll was all the stuff, and that's all I cared about. I loved James Brown. I loved a bunch of that kind of stuff. He said, "But you're going to learn these songs. You're going to learn these songs." And I said, "Well, what songs?" And he brings out the book. And they're all musical standards, like Birth of the Blues. You remember those? Or
right, I do.
Nobody till somebody loves you. All those standards.
Yeah.
Remember?
I'm smiling.
And,
yeah, I do.
And I didn't really know these songs. I mean, we had Sinatra playing in the house, but 150 of these. And my deal with him was that why am I yelling? My deal with him was I needed to learn the melody, the chords, and that I needed to learn them and perform them for my mother.
For your mom.
Who was ill in bed.
Yes.
Okay, so the deal was that if I did this, I memorized, not read it. I mean, I have to read them to learn them, but I memorized these 150 songs. He would buy me a black Les Paul.
Wow.
Now, in those days, I don't remember what they cost. The black, what do they use? They used to call them
Black
fretless.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Very expensive compared to the other instruments. That's for sure.
Right.
And I thought about it. I was like, that's all I wanted. I wanted a black Les Paul,
Right.
So I got to work. And in just a little under 6 months, every time I got home from school at about 3:30 in the afternoon on Long Island, I closed my door and I learned as many songs as I could. And it was a little added thing that I needed to both learn the melody and the chords, but I had to also be able to play it in a fashion that I could accompany a singer, and that my father promised he would sing the songs to my mother. So, and he wasn't a great singer, but he wanted me to learn how to accompany a sax player, a singer, whatever.
Right.
So in retrospect, Terry and friends, he was doing a magic that only, an angel could do.
Right.
And anyway, came time, I said, Dad, I want to go play for Mommy. And he said, okay, so we'll start tomorrow. So we started Saturday, and I don't want to get too emotional here. Anyway, she sat up in the bed, and I played 150 songs in 3 days with my father singing probably 3/4 of them. And my mother was crying and laughing and joyous, and it was like out of a motion picture. You couldn't make a more emotional motion picture,
No, and you can't make this up. I mean, what a beautiful experience.
I finished up, My birthday is January 21st. Yes. And my bar mitzvah was February 11th. So February 10th, I walked down the stairs, and on our ripped sofa was a guitar case with ribbons on it. And I opened the guitar case, and there was my Les Paul. To this day, I found out later that my father went to a pawn shop and pawned his wedding rings to get me the guitar.
Jeez.
But because he made a promise. So that's another thing for the musicians and the composers and the people out there. When you promise somebody something, please deliver it. When you promising someone and being honest and being open with somebody, especially when you're networking. If you're John Wolfe used to say, don't be an ambulance chaser. Don't be an ambulance chaser is somebody in the music business or arts that will do anything to get the gig, but will kiss everybody's behind. But someone who fills a gap that's there for the producer, the composer, the arranger, the radio host that needs something.
Mm-hmm.
That's value. That's value. And that's also longevity. So
I want to ask you a couple of.
It's a story. I'm right here.
Oh, amazing story. I didn't know all the details, and it's really special.
Thank you.
I want to ask you some quick questions and quick answers, and then I want to talk about your book. But just starting off, is it true that you still sleep only like 5 or 6 hours a night?
Yes.
And
how short should my answer be?
Relatively
yes
short.
good?
We've got about 8 minutes left for the show, and I do want to talk about your book and of course your tour upcoming.
Yes,
tour,
I sleep 4 to 5 hours. I usually take an hour nap during the day. I use meditation for mental.
That was
rest.
my next question. So you still meditate regularly, and that's part of your.
I do. I have.
Yeah.
I skip days, but since 1978, when I was taught in Boston how to do transcendental meditation, I've had an interest in using that as a tool. Right.
You basically, your mom clearly taught you about gratitude, and your dad about passion and commitment. Boy, there's so many. We're going to need to have you back on the show again another time to really get to all the things I want to talk about. You've said, since we're talking about mentoring also, regarding artists promoting themselves, the most important thing is when selling yourself, your band, your music, is research. Always do your homework, find out who's going to listen, what their tastes are, and most of all, what they need. If you always think about adding value to someone else's life or career, you cannot lose.
You cannot lose. And I think that I had a teacher once who said to me, look, remember this, no one is waiting for you. So meaning they're not waiting for you to show up. I get so many people on Facebook, I would say hundreds a month, that send me their MP3s and tell me they're the best band, they're the best prog band, they want to open for Ponty. And the thing is, not one of them has said anything that would help me, And so as much as I'm a nice guy and I want to help them, I'm very disinterested in them.
Right. Yeah.
But when other people say, look, I love your new album, Catnap, and I'm going to feature it on my page. Would you please listen to my band? I couldn't get to their page fast enough.
Right.
It's just, it's the way we're wired.
It is.
I'm sorry, but that's kind of the way it is. I tell my students who want to put
that. Smart.
Well, people, you find so many people who go to club owners, for example, and they don't know anything about the history of the club. They don't know what the clientele is like. They don't know what the owner does. I tell the people I mentor, you want to play in a club, you find out how that club was built, what gym the owner goes to, find out if he has children, take an interest in them and let them know that if your band is going to play at the club, you're going to give value to the club. And it always works, man. We all want to be loved. I mean, I don't know if that's love. That's not love, but we all want to feel value,
Yeah, we do. And let's talk about your book. And I also have a final question. So this is going to be a short version of an incredibly long and important part of your life, which is you having a breakdown. You basically having to really hit rock bottom from this earthquake and being trapped in your apartment and everything that happened and your recovery to including moving out of Los Angeles to a place that was more nurturing to you. But the name of the book is Hear the Silence, and we're going to share the link on the page, on the Intertalk Radio page, so that everybody can go to it.
Thank you.
But in maybe like a 2 or 3 minute version, because I still have a final question for you.
Okay.
Talk about the book and how it helped you, and I know that you wrote it to help other people as well.
Right. The purpose of the book is to help people. I believe in my heart that the reason why I had this unbelievably dreamland life. Even though some people may feel sorry for me for having an ill mother, my life is fantastic.
Yeah,
and I know the greatest people, and I've played the greatest music, and everything's magnificent. And suddenly this earthquake happened, and when I came out of the earthquake, I wasn't me anymore, basically. Right. I had been up for 16 hours playing with Manhattan Transfer in Bosnia, and when I got back 3 hours later, the earthquake hit. I was trapped in my apartment. The firemen took me out in my underwear in the middle of Los Angeles, and I didn't sleep for 4 days after. Right. And when the week was over, I didn't care about anything, nothing. Right. I didn't care if I showered. I could go to the bathroom in my pants, and I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't care about anything. Right. It's like I said on another interview with CBS TV, I remember saying this, it's like they took me out of me. And this was unbelievable. And then, of course, it's Los Angeles. So everybody in Los Angeles sees that now within 4 months, I'm not coming to gigs. I'm not showing up. I'm skinny as a rail. So I have to be on some drug. And so the pattern, the roller coaster that happened during that 2-year period was off the charts. I mean, people, I'm not telling you I'm a prude. I mean, I've tried drugs. I've done things. But I mean, the point is that wasn't the cause of this issue. I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I had no money. I had no food. And I eventually ended up in a park practicing to be homeless.
Well, so, didn't you also at that time discover that you had bipolar symptoms as well? Well,
that was the original diagnosis. And the reason for that was that and to this day, and you know me well, is that my energy level is about where most New Yorkers in Manhattan are. Sure. It doesn't matter where I am. I could be I'm still manic, but the truth of the matter is that I'm not manic depressive, and bipolar was an incorrect diagnosis. Okay. PTSD. Now, my book came out in 2003 with a major publisher in the UK, a health publisher. And at that time, I had written in the book, in the ebook, more about bipolar. And so when the book became mine again, I bought the rights back. I changed most of that.
Smart.
Yeah, because that's not what it is.
Jamie, I have to interrupt. We have less than a minute left.
Oh, fine.
We're absolutely going to send you all the listeners to the link. But I do have a final question, and the best you can do at answering. At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to have been grateful earlier on. Mm-hmm. That's this. Instead of riding the wave and thinking I was a rock star for 20 years, to be more grateful for the incredible the blessings that somehow I have been given. Now I'm so grateful I can burst. And I wish I had that years ago.
Well, your mom and dad would be so proud of that answer. We are sadly out of time. I love you and respect you. And Jamie Glaser, thank you for doing the show. See y'all next week.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.
This is Jackie Burtoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.